This is Monster Hunter Rise. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So what are we getting here with this monster hunting experience? Well, we've got a couple different options on the Series X. So the way to do this is to go to the game settings and then go down to display. And then you'll notice that we have a few different options. So we've got like a 4K 60 mode, and then we've got a 1080p 120 FPS mode. So this is a bit odd because it's like there's the default setting, and then you can prioritize frame rate, which we'll click here, and you'll see that the world changes down to like 1080p, very jagged, lots of different quality dip down, and you get the 120 FPS. Then you can go all the way over to prioritize graphics, and you can see that that is kind of the big change, right? Where it just goes up a little bit more in regards to the detail. Now, there is also another option where you go to advanced graphics settings, and you can choose the image quality, which is kind of interesting. So I guess if you're having any performance issues, you can adjust things further. There's also high resolution textures, if you would like to turn that on and off, your texture filtering settings. I've not really seen too many games on console with this many choices. Ambient occlusion, the shadow quality you can improve if you'd like to, or you could lower. So that in itself is really interesting. Dynamic shadows, you have to change that in the main menu though if you want that. Foliage sway on or off, motion blur on or off, lens distortion, the vignette effect, depth of field you can change, the film grain if you'd like to have film grain on, that's an option too. It's really, really interesting. And then there's filters. You can go black and white like cinema style, sepia, you could do sepia Japanese. Oh, wow. So lots of different options in regards to your visual settings. Again, one of the more complex ones I've actually seen for this sort of thing. We're going to click prioritize graphics and just kind of show that off for a little bit here and then go back to the default setting. The game also has spatial sound support, Dolby Atmos support, DTS:X support, PC gamepad support. It's got VRR, which is variable refresh rate. It's got HDR. It's a game that you can play alone or you can play with others. You can have a 4-player team working together across a variety of different scenarios and scenes. And yeah, it's kind of cool in that regard. So this is like the snow area, which is like tier 2. I'm only supposed to show off certain areas, certain sections, certain things. So keep that in mind, and I try to put in as much time as I could into this experience so that we could talk about it and share it and showcase it. So Monster Hunter, if you're not familiar with the game, is about hunting monsters. So I've got, you get to have a couple creatures that will help you. We've got my dog. So you customize the look of your dog. Well, you customize yourself. You pick your character, and then you choose from different weapon styles depending on your desires, and you can change that at any point too. And then we got a doggo. So doggo is Arcana, so you can like ride him like a horse and everything like that. And then you get like a little cat. So there's Nico. He's a little red and green cat. Pretty cool. I gave him some better armor stuff because you upgrade your armor and your tools. And there's like a camp you have where you like gather items, and then the main base is where you go and also kind of customize your experience a bit more in regards to like, crafting, building, expanding things. There's like a blacksmith you work for, or not work for, but work with, and there's also like your companion's blacksmith too that's available. Yeah, it's kind of neat. So you go out into the open world and you kind of hunt monsters. There's different options though, and these worlds, they're all like little hub worlds. So you go out and you visit them, and as you explore, you get, access to new locations and new visibility on the map. You can find new hunting and fast travel points on the map. You can find lots of items. There'll be things like mushrooms or cobwebs or bones, and you use that for like leveling, or you can sell them off to make more money. There's a lot of actual complexity to this game. There's a lot going on in it. And it becomes a little bit more intensive as you go about and explore. So that's one of the big creatures. I don't believe that's actually what we're hunting. So we're gonna look over here. And they move around in different ways too. So like there's bird creatures that will fly around. And if you get into a battle, you can like, with two big creatures, you can kind of like ride one of the creatures and then fight the other creature with it, which is really, really awesome and looks really cool. And then there's tons of smaller creatures. You might just go on an expedition just to, like, I guess you would say, gather supplies. It's kind of simple. You can definitely see, like, from its roots in regards to, like, where this game originally was from and how it's kind of progressed, what the style of gameplay is like and the scope of it. But it's still pretty fun, and I think if you're... I think this is what we're hunting. If not, we'll try to kill it regardless. Yeah, if you know the origins of this Monster Hunter or other Monster Hunter games, I think you're kind of getting an idea of what you're supposed to do. Do I have no health potions right now? You've got to be kidding me. Well, this is going to be a tricky situation. But yeah, it's kind of a neat game. Visually, I think it looks pretty good, but at the same time, again, you can definitely see elements of, like, the limitations from where this originally was ported from. And you can see, like, you know, the technology. You know, it looks good, but it's... it wasn't specifically made with these ones in mind. That being said, you know, I think it's kind of A, you go for pretty nice looking visuals with a 4K 60, or B, you go for that crazy high frame rate, which is the 120 FPS. And yeah, you know, that actually does look really, really smooth. The 120 FPS feels really good and responsive, which is nice and kind of expected. And yeah, it's really up to the individual in regards to, you know, kind of how you want to go at it. But yeah, you put together your ragtag squad, and then you go and hunt. And your guys will give you a hand, like, you know, your doggo will fight with you, same with the cat, and then you pick, like, your cat abilities. So, like, my cat is a healer, so my cat will, like, occasionally put up, like, a tree, and the cat will also, like, gather items for you, like, you know, go mining and stuff, if that's on the side of where you are. It's kind of neat. And the game's got, like I said, a lot of complexity to it. Like, this is some more basic hunts, and, you know, it's got, like, a decent amount of content and stuff, too. If you try to go through it fast, you know, it's an okay amount of gameplay time. I think if you take more of your time with it, it's more engaging and whatnot. But, yeah, so you'll have things like kind of baiting enemies, or you might use bombs to attack them. You might use different kinds of, like, hidden things. You might have to track enemies if they go to a different area. Should have really made some potions. I wasn't thinking straight on that stuff, because I just came off of another hunt. So let's go and let's follow this thing. And there's different, like, environments and biomes you can end up going to. It's a pretty neat kind of concept title. It makes me really kind of wish it was, like, open world, though, which is kind of funny. Yeah, that was, like, literally my first thought was, like, huh, this would be really cool with, like, a massive open world that you could explore. So, yeah, just kind of a thought there. At the same time, it's fun diving in here. The loading is basically, like, instant. And then it's also really cool if you're able to actually get, like, a squad together for the chaos and the excitement that provides. I think it's kind of neat. And, you know, you always got to upgrade your weapons. But some things, like doing... You know, some of these battles, it just, like, goes on and on and on. And you'll have to, like, you know, and I didn't do that between areas, kind of, like, sharpen your blade, or maybe eat something to get your stamina level up, you know, your rations and stuff. But we got this, it's no big deal. So, yeah, there's lots of elements of, like, working together if you'd like to, because it gets a little bit more, you know, wild and crazy if you are kind of doing this as, like, a squad, as a team. You know, and then you gotta, like, carve out some loot from your enemies, too, once you're done. And, yeah, there's quite a bit to this game. It's actually kind of fun and engaging. At first, I found it a little... I don't know what the word would be. A little overwhelming in regards to, like, the amount of, like, text and info and tutorial stuff they give you. And then I also felt, like, a bit lost initially, and then once I started playing, going around, I was like, okay. So, you know, you're gathering stuff, you're collecting things. I get what it's going towards. I do wish there was, like, a bit more... This is the tree I was talking about. I wish there was a bit more of a focus on, like, narrative-type elements, because it's kind of like, oh, you know, there's this calamity or happening, and you're like, oh, what are we going to do? And then it's just like, we do what we always do, we hunt monsters. Oh, and you've got an owl, too.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's something, too. There's a lot to it. So we're going to take all this stuff, because I actually need to gather more supplies, and I definitely need more potions. And then all your characters kind of level up. You unlock new things. The more missions you do, the more options you get available to you. And then they talk to you and they're like, good job, and blah, blah, blah. And y'all high five each other. And it's great. But I like the hub world. It's like a pretty cool little area that you get to explore. And then you go do more quests. Talk to Buddy, Handler, Lori. Where's Lori at? Well, I mean, I kind of want to keep hunting some things, to be honest. I don't want to get too sidetracked here. But do we have any... It's like a quest board. I'm going to go talk to one of the merchants. But yeah, it's kind of like this thriving little city hub area. Then you shoot off and you go and you go hunt things, right? Actually, do I have... in my inventory, I'm kind of wondering if I have more items. Because I have like an item box somewhere. I'm just going to... Just in case I don't, I'm just going to buy some more potions. Yeah, just in case I need them. And then, yeah, you got the back button. You can do like these translated shoutouts and stuff and stickers and gestures and that. Hello there. So, I think if you've played other Monster Hunter games, you're going to dive into this one and be like, yeah, okay, I know what I'm doing. I believe this one's also a bit more accessible in comparison to some of the other Monster Hunter titles. You know, again, just from what I've heard, it's not as, like, I guess, intensive in that regard, so you might find that to be interesting. Hunte. Okay, let's hunt this thing, yep. And then you go off and you fight. But it really is kind of like just almost instant in regards to loading. You get right into it. I was hoping for like a day kind of thing. But yeah, you can really sort of explore and go to different places. I knew I had more in my supply box. Unbelievable. And there's other funny stuff too, because it could be like you go gather like an egg and you have to like walk back with your egg. And they give you like different traversal methods too. Like obviously the dog Arcanos is a good boy, but you can kind of like rope yourself around to move a little bit faster. Like I said, there's fast traveling if you get to like a certain point unlocked. And it's a really neat kind of concept. So we're fighting a Kulu Yakyu. So it's like it doesn't hold your hand, but it like literally kind of tells you where it can be. Like it's a weird mix of like telling you but not telling you. I also find it strange that it's like, I don't know how to describe this. You're getting like damage on your weapons. Like it says, "Oh, you've done this much damage. Oh, you've done this much damage." But then like you don't have like an enemy, like a monster health bar, so you're kind of like, well, that doesn't really... What is the point of that with that? Anyways, you just kind of fight and mash and destroy until, they're kind of dead. I will also note that it doesn't really look like there's any sort of, like, real pop-in the game, which is nice. But I have noticed, like, if you look at the backdrop in some segments, it kind of has, like, some of the shadows are a little... you see them, like, kind of moving a little bit, which is weird, but I don't think most people will notice that at all. But I kind of, I like, to a degree, the aesthetic and stuff they're going for. I do wish it was a little bit more, I don't know how you describe it, visually intensive, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, oh, no, it looks cool, I like it. Really, did you just fall down there? I think there's like a spot up here I believe I'm supposed to get to, where you can go and, yeah, okay, that thing's not set up. Okay, because there's a camp I remember getting to. I think it was up there. I think it was up in that section. Maybe we gotta go up this way. And yeah, then you can set up a base camp there, which would be nice. Unless I have to I might have to hunt something to be able to do that first. Sorry, there's all these like little things to this, lots of little intricacies to your experience, whether you're like, kind of hunting or setting stuff up in the world. And there's also lots of little gathering things. So it's as much as it is about, hunting monsters, taking monsters out. It's also a game that's about, kind of gathering the supplies, the resources you need to be effective at doing your particular job. And I think that is kind of interesting too. But it seems pretty, like, accessible as well. Oh, I don't think I can do this yet because I haven't... There's like this quest thing where you have to kill this stuff, and then you gotta go talk to this guy. It's a whole thing. Oop. Yeah, but I think it's a pretty fun title. I've had a good time with it. You know, I've got my creatures. You go and you do your hunting stuff. They kind of give you everything right away, and they're like, just go and have at it, have some fun. And I think that's good. But I do see that this could be something that might be a little overwhelming for people, even though it is like, again, kind of like a bit more of an accessible option within the Monster Hunter series. Again, from what I've kind of looked at in comparison to other ones. But, yeah, it's a neat franchise. I think this is kind of a good, you know, stepping on point for a lot of people. I think you'll find this to be kind of interesting and intriguing. I do wish there was also a bit more better kind of like lock-on options. I mean, it sort of like directs you to where you're going, but you know, I kind of find it a little ineffective for being like, hey, you know, kind of slashing onto these creatures. But there are lots of different like disciplines for combat, like I said. Kind of just been doing the whole longsword thing, but you can do like dual blades, there's like shooting based stuff, there's all that kind of combat. And like I said, if you get other people going on, you know, playing together, it could be a real riot of a scenario for like combat and gameplay design. It's really neat. But playing alone is fine too. You know, like honestly, I don't really have too many issues playing this by myself. It just, yeah, sometimes these creatures take a while to cut. But it is also neat seeing the decay. Am I hitting his rock? Is that like blocking this a lot of stuff for him? Yeah, so you can like damage these enemies, and then like bits of them kind of come off, if that makes sense. Like, and it's like, oh, you can collect these little parts of the damaged creature that you've been beating. I think that's kind of neat. But yeah, neat combat options, lots of little layering complexity to it. As you go along, you'll find that it's a bit more like, hey, you've got to, you know, kind of seek this stuff out, figure things out. I think that's interesting. I think there's plenty to do in this if you want to experience a lot. But it's also sort of like, I don't know, almost simple. Again, the origins of this title kind of make it feel like it's not as expansive as perhaps other entries might be and whatnot. Oh, there's the actual healing tree. Ow. But still, a good time, and it kind of makes me want to experience a bit more different Monster Hunter stuff, if that makes sense. Like, I'm diving in here and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. You know, there's a lot you could enjoy from this franchise, basically. It's a good entry point, right? And I think that's what they're kind of going for Monster Hunter Rise, as being like, hey, you know, it's the same Monster Hunter you love, just a little bit more of a compressed package. Is that a fair thing? I think I could put forward on that one. But, you know, monster hunting, slashing, cutting, blasting, upgrading, tools, exploration, you know, it's got like a host of different things.
Oh, no, you don't!
Oh, no. But I think your mileage is going to vary based on sort of like your interest in this particular concept and setup. Like, you can get quite a bit out of this, or you'll kind of be like, I don't know, because it can, you know, maybe feel like a little bit of a grind in some stuff. But it's got a neat style, it's got a neat aesthetic. The music's actually kind of lovely too, but like kind of minimal, if that makes sense. I've turned it off because of, you know, potential issues and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's kind of actually enchanting hearing the one lady in the menu kind of sing and stuff. It's kind of cool. But yeah, it's a game of, you know, dealing with these creatures, looking at these creatures, being like, okay, am I damaging them a lot? Are they almost dead? Am I getting this mission complete? You know, what's the best way to kind of deal with these? I mean, I'm kind of like lazily just sort of cutting it and eventually it'll die. But there is a lot more to this stuff that you can do that I'm just kind of not really doing, I guess you would say. And if you get them on like an incline, you can like really wail on them and they might not be able to hit you. I've done that with a couple of the creatures, which is funny. But it's not all big monsters, too. I want to get that across as well. You can go hunt and fight the little things. You know, there's quests for being like, oh, kill 10 of these little side things, or, you know, do this, or collect mushrooms. You know, it's not all just intensive hunting a big monster at the end of the day, but, that is part of it too in Monster Hunter Rise.